This is the Litterbox, a Detroit Lions podcast with your hosts, Chet West and Bill Patterson.
Litterbox listeners, it's your co-host, Billy P. from the D, with my co-host, Chet West. And as promised, we are introducing a second Litterbox for your listening enjoyment. This one's going to concern our beloved Honolulu Blue and Silver, the Detroit Lions. And we are going to start this off because this week the Lions were selected to play in the Hall of Fame game, a glorified scrimmage against your Los Angeles Chargers in Canton, Ohio, for the Hall of Fame ceremonies for the National Football League. The Lions had a fantastic season last year. Despite losing in the divisional round as the 1 seed to the Washington Commanders and their upstart quarterback, Jaden Daniels, the Lions posted a 15-2 record on the season, won an ultra-competitive division, and the grit that they showed from every player, despite injuries being so numerous that we didn't even know who was out there against Jaden Daniels in the playoff game. I still would say I was really proud of this team, and I'm very optimistic, as I know my co-host is, going into the 2025 season. Recently, ESPN took their football writers and compiled a list of most talented rosters in the NFL, and the Detroit Lions finished third after only the Baltimore Ravens and Philadelphia Eagles. Yes, the schedule is going to be brutal this year, and we'll do that at a different pod. This is more a primer for what we're looking for this week as Jim Harbaugh and his Los Angeles Chargers play in a basically glorified scrimmage at Tom Benson Stadium in Canton, Ohio. So with that, we've got a few topics that we're going to go through. I'm going to kind of lead us through this. Chet's, of course, going to offer his sound opinions. And we also had some topics from listeners that they wanted us to address via the Tigers podcast, even though they were Lions questions. So we'll also try to do that as well. And we look forward to talking to you weekly. We'll do a preview and a post show as the Lions embark on training camp and the 2025 season. Chet, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, other than the fact that we are thrilled to be doing this, another Litterbox production here. And I'll tell you what, I probably talk about the Lions back channeling with the buddies and everything more than I do the Tigers. And so this will be a fascinating experiment and experience from our end. And I can't wait to get rolling on this. And the fact that we kind of kicked the season off here with the Hall of Fame game adds a little more excitement. I'm not going to lie. I'm not a huge NFL preseason fan, other than it means football's starting back up. It's fun to see what we got, but the game is so different when you get the full regular season that outside of doing a little scouting, that's kind of where I stand. So if you want any real passionate takes from me, check back in a month and a half. Okay. For right now, I'm going to have a little fun watching who we got in the draft, watching a few of these young guys play and kind of putting together what I see out there on the field. But Bill, why don't you get us kicked off with our first topic?
So our first topic, we're going to start on the defensive side of the ball. And one of the biggest issues last year, despite the 15-2 record, was just the sheer amount of injuries the Lions experienced throughout the season, most specifically the defensive line. And there were just so many injuries, from Aiden Hutchinson going down with a broken leg in the Cowboys game to Aleem McNeil being lost for the season. And the Lions literally looked like a MASH unit out there at certain times. This year has gotten off to a pretty rough start as well, with one of the Lions draft picks, a second-round pick 5 years ago. Levi Onwuzurike is now out for the year after tearing his ACL. So, Chet, what are your thoughts on what can happen going forward, knowing that Aleem McNeil, who I mentioned, and Aiden Hutchinson might not be back, for certainly not McNeil for week 1. He's scheduled to be mid to late season. Hutch, everybody says, is looking good, but what are your thoughts on what this D-line needs to do and how much more can the Lions sustain from an injury standpoint?
I am optimistic based on some of the youth we got coming back and from what I'm hearing in camp. But again, it's camp and it's 1 week. So how much are we going to get out of this? Aiden Hutchinson's apparently looked great, exploding off the line and doing Aiden Hutchinson things, which is awesome. That's exactly what you want to hear at this point. We're not going to get much more than that, right? So if people said, hey, he's taking it light, he's not doing as much, he's not doing as much work, then I'd probably temper my expectations for what he'll do when the season starts up. I don't think there's anybody on the team chomping at the bit more to get back on the field than that guy, though. He had to basically torture himself watching last season and all the success the team had, and then watching them fold up in the playoffs against the Commanders and knowing he could have played a big role in succeeding and getting them through that. They got a couple young guys, but Marcus Davenport is another guy, not a young guy, who I want to talk about. He apparently has come out saying he feels great and he has invested in making this a big season. I would like to see that. They re-signed the guy. I was kind of shocked that they re-signed him instead of Z, but they brought him back. And if we can get, and there's no question the guy has talent. He's a talented edge guy when he's healthy. He's rarely healthy these days. Big if.
And I still think, which I've heard from so many talking heads, Zadarius Smith is dating a hip-hop artist in the Detroit area and is still residing or at least spending most of his time in the Detroit area. I still think
he's still maybe back. It's early. We're in the early days of this right now.
But
Matthew Judon, that's been mentioned lately as a rumor, as edge help. He's a Michigan guy from back in the day, went to Grand Valley State. So he's a hometown kid who may come back around. Maybe they're using Judon to get Z to sign something. I don't know. Maybe we can bump it. Wouldn't it be great if we had them both? We won't. They won't use that much of the resources on that many edge guys. Although after last season, I'd say you can never have too many. They've got a young kid by the name of Ahmed Hassanin.
Correct.
From everything I've seen from this guy, he looks like he could be the real deal. And I think we're going to see him in the Hall of Fame game. He's one of the guys, I've got a couple others on my list that I'll be watching in the Hall of Fame game just to see how they do. Again, who knows who we'll be going up against? We don't know what we're going to get, as far as a real look. But another guy I'm going to look at, and I think there's a couple other guys on the list like Nate Lynn, who has shown up in this first week of off season. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, or first week of preseason. I think it's going to be Z getting signed back on. So you're going to have some sort of a rotation between Davenport, Z, and Hutchinson. And then it's probably going to come down to attrition from there as to who can stay on the field and be healthy. And I'm hoping Aiden is the one stalwart and the other two guys volley back and forth. That's my hope for this whole D-line edge rush. As far as the interior goes, I mean, you're looking at some young guys here. Tyleek Williams. Is DJ Reader going to be effective this year?
That's my key to the defensive line success, is not what you've talked about from the edge to this point. And no surprise that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell knew exactly what they were doing drafting Williams in the first round, because I think they knew, even though they signed him for a pittance, that Onwuzurike probably wouldn't be able to sustain his health through a full season, which is a shame because when he was on the field, he was very good, very disruptive. He could play the edge, he could play inside. That being said, I think Reader is the key to success for the front four on this defensive line, and the early reports from camp are outstanding. Outside of Hutch looking in the best shape he's ever been in, Reader on multiple drills is beating guys 10 years his junior to loose balls and blocking drills. And so I'm cautiously optimistic on this. I don't think there can be anywhere near the health issues that were experienced last year. There's also a new defensive coordinator, although he was essentially the new coordinator in waiting. Aaron Glenn, the past coordinator, for those that maybe haven't been following this as closely as we do, is now the head coach of the New York Jets. He was a former player there. I don't terribly love it because that's typically where head coaches go to lose their job in 3 seasons. And I thought pretty highly of Aaron Glenn, so I hope he's the exception, not the rule. That being said, we've got Kelvin Shepard, coming in. I have heard that the calls are staying the same, the cadence is staying the same, and the schemes are staying the same.
I think we're going to see a little more blitz. Even though we saw a lot of blitz, we blitzed out of necessity last year.
Yeah.
I think now where it's going to be used a little more strategically, and I think it's going to be a little more effective, providing that everything stays healthy and as expected.
Yeah. So let's move to the linebackers, and we'll talk a little bit about this. There's a hold in, and you heard me correct on that, not a holdout. Alex Anzalone, who is, let's face it, I mean, outside of Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes taking over this franchise and redirecting it in the direction that it's gone, Alex Anzalone and Jared Goff would probably be your two poster boys or players on the offensive and defensive side. He's got flowing blonde locks. He's of Greek, heritage. He played at the University of Florida. He runs all over the field. And I don't want to bore our listeners with metrics, but our defense, when he was out last year, was demonstratively worse. It's already been said that it's Jack Campbell's defense to run this year. Jack Campbell will be the linebacker. If there's only one linebacker on the field, he will be that linebacker. He is the one calling everything for Calvin Shepard. And Jack Campbell did blitz quite heavily at the University of Iowa. If Chet, my co-host, can see my T-shirt on. Love you, Hammis family.
He's wearing a University of Iowa T-shirt, folks.
And Jack Campbell does have that ability. He's also, a rock'em sock'em old school stay-at-home linebacker. I expect to see he and Derek Barnes being the starters if Anzalone decides to do something stupid, which I would consider stupid, doing this hold in when the season starts. Anzalone, as our baseball listeners know, I'm not a big fan of guys that are on the wrong side of 30, and that means you're 30 or above. He is in the last year of his current deal that he signed just 3 years ago. Yes, he probably is underpaid comparatively. He is not a priority for the Lions right now, with Jack Campbell entering year 3, Derek Barnes being someone they've been very high on that can also rush the passer, which is not something Anzalone can do with great success. He's more a stay-at-home. I almost look at him as like a 5th or 6th defensive back, like a safety.
Coverage linebacker.
Yeah.
That's his strong point. And strong suit.
You have a better, younger, faster version in Brian Branch in the secondary to do that. So I
will say this. I want to ask you a question, Bill, real quick on Anzalone while we're picking on him here. Prior to, let's see, the 2023 season. So let's take last year and the previous year into consideration. Prior to that, I don't think I've ever done a bigger 180 on a player. The 2021-22 seasons, I think their first 2 seasons for Campbell, Anzalone kind of came with him, right? I was dying on the inside watching Anzalone play linebacker. Why is this guy on the field? I mean, he was he was a liability. Just a liability at the position at the time. And I did not see him ever becoming who he became for us in the last 2 seasons. I think it was 2023 season. He came out with a vengeance and showed that he could hit, and then he could break plays up in the backfield, and he could get out on the edge and track guys down. And I was getting excited. I'm like, who is this Anzalone guy all of a sudden? Because this isn't the guy I've been watching. And then last season, up till he broke his forearm, he had continued that. And I started thinking to myself, wow, we really caught some lightning in a bottle here with this guy. He's either that or he's just figured it out. But he did it late in his career. I mean, he'd been around for a while prior to those years. I mean, he was with the Saints prior to, as kind of a special teams guy.
Which is where Campbell and Glenn knew him from.
Exactly. And
I'm with you 100%.
I'm just saying he wants to get paid now, but nobody really wants to pay him because he's too far down the road. So it's kind of like, look, man, it's like bad timing. I hate to say it. Yeah, he probably deserves a couple more dollars, but do you want to invest in that from a business and making a business decision? Do you want to invest in that?
No, he is not what I would consider a good business decision, and I hope that cooler heads prevail.
Yeah.
If they want to convert some of his money into signing bonus, if it doesn't ruin the cap, which it shouldn't, from what I understand about the salary cap, I'm fine with that. I just don't want him extended because
how many years are you going to give him? I mean, and look, Jack Campbell, it's a part of the timing thing here, but he's coming along. And all reports from camp are that he's been doing great and he looks ready to go this season. So
he and Barnes have been the two starting linebackers. Yeah. We're still waiting for
Campbell. Really rose up when Anzalone went out last year for an extended period of time. Campbell rose up and kind of grew into that position, started to mature into that. There's a lot more upside there. You're going to spend your money on Campbell before you're going to spend it on Anzalone here in the next couple of years to retain him. So we'll see what happens.
And let's talk about the rest of the defense.
Yeah.
Kirby Joseph got paid, but you still have to extend Hutch. You're going to have to extend Branch. You're going to want to probably extend Terrion Arnold.
Well, based on what everybody says he's been doing this first week, again, we're only a week in. Apparently, Terrion Arnold looks like a new man out there, like a completely different player. Last season, he was aggressive, okay, but he lacked a lot of technique. He got a ton of freaking flags. Pass interference like on every play. He just mauled receivers. This year, apparently, he's quicker, stronger, better to the ball, better in defensive coverage. I'm going to be fascinated to see this evolution of this cornerback. I think he's going to be our best defensive back this year.
I share your optimism, and I think the Lions might have made one of the best free agent signings, if not the best free agent signing of the offseason with DJ Reed from the Jets. He was cheaper than the outgoing veteran Carlton Davis, formerly of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Lions, and now going to the Patriots. He was less expensive, and by all metrics, which Pro Football Focus, you're going to hear us mention that a lot, PFF, is typically where Chet and I are going to go, had him graded a lot higher. I mean, we're talking 10, 12 spots higher. I think the Lions secondary is going to be vastly improved this year.
I think we might actually, for once in a long, long while, say that our defensive backfield is going to be a strength.
Which would enable.
And what will that do for our D-line and our rush and
guess where your blitz is going to come from?
Tell you what.
That right there, Chet. So I think Kelvin Shepherd's going to have fun with this defense.
Yeah.
My only question mark, and this is one for you outside of just general health, going forward on it, is do we ever see Enos Rakestraw suit up? He was always hurt at Missouri. He was the second round pick after Terrion Arnold, not this past draft, but the draft before. Is he ever going to be someone that remains healthy enough? Because my only frustration with Brad Holmes' drafting has been that he does take flyers on players that were hurt in college. Example would be Levi Onwuzurike. He took him a full round before he took Aleem McNeil, and McNeil, outside of last year tearing his knee, has been a rock steady starter and reliable performer, where Onwuzurike, came in with a back injury, had to have surgery, and it just never really got right. When he was on the field, he was great, but just wasn't on the field enough. And football is like many sports, but if you can't be available, you're really not all that important. So with that kind of covers my defense, unless you had anything you wanted to add on.
No, we touched on the corner. I wanted to talk about the defensive backfield because the reports out of camp are that it's a strength this year with Reed and the coming up of Arnold. And you're going to see like our third guy is probably going to be Amik Robertson, I would assume.
Yes,
he's going to be Rakestraw. I think Rakestraw is going to be down the list a little ways. They picked up a couple other vets, and they drafted Tyson Russell, I believe, was a draft pick later in the rounds there. I think that, we've covered the D. I think the D is going to be a strength going forward. I think Kelvin Shepherd's going to be a great defensive coordinator. I don't see any reason to believe that he won't be. I mean, I had my frustrations with Glenn at times, right?
I did too.
Up until probably last season, I had my frustrations with Glenn. So we'll see what happens. Let's flip it over to the offense, Bill.
All right. So I think the key story here is twofold. One, Frank Ragnow, the all everything, but certainly all pro center for the last, 8-9 seasons for the Lions, retired. His body, he wants to enjoy his life with his family, and hopefully he's invested well, made enough money through his career to retire successfully and happily. Is a true Honolulu blue and silver warrior. I wish him nothing but the best in this. So that's a big hole to fill, and one that we probably won't know until training camp and the preseason concludes. There's been two players that have been trying to fill that hole. One is a veteran that a lot of you will be familiar with, Graham Glasgow, formerly of the University of Michigan. He was drafted by the Lions, played center his first year, and then moved to guard. He's much more comfortable on the right side than he is on the left side. When he is a guard, he then was a free agent with the Broncos and then came back to the Lions. And again, was really good, graded well in PFF, provided he was playing next to Penei Sewell on the right side. Last season, the Lions signed an excellent free agent addition, Kevin Zeitler, who did leave again in free agency because he was 35. The Lions smartly, my old axiom, don't sign players to long-term deals on the wrong side of 30. They didn't. He ended up going to the Tennessee Titans, and so the Lions had another hole to fill on that. So the debate on this is the Lions drafted a player by the name of Tate Ratledge from the University of Georgia in the second round this year. He's an absolute mauler, an absolute beast, a 4-year starter for a Georgia team that won the most games for any 4-year span in the history, which is illustrious, of University of Georgia football. The question is, do you keep Ratledge at the left guard spot next to Taylor Decker and keep Glasgow on the right side, or do you move Ratledge to center, or do you have Glasgow play center? And we won't know a lot of this because both men have played there this past week. I don't expect to see either of them for any prolonged period of time. As a matter of fact, I don't know that Glasgow will even play in the Hall of Fame game. Ratledge might, but I still would be somewhat surprised at that if it's more than a series. So, there's going to be some reshuffling there. The constants that we know of is that the bookends, our tackle spots, are occupied, as I mentioned, Taylor Decker on the left, Penei Sewell, who might be the best tackle in the game, on the right. So I think there's reason for optimism on that. And then there's a fairly deep bench of draft picks that Brad Holmes and company have done to fortify the offensive line. And I overall feel good about it. Not as good as I would if Frank Ragnow were still here and if Zeitler had re-signed for 1 year with us. What are your thoughts on the offensive line, and what would you like to see, week one when the Lions travel to Lambeau Field to play the Packers?
Well, first and foremost, I'd love to see no change in the effectiveness of our O-line because it was our strength of our offense for the past couple of years now. I mean, we do everything we're able to do because that line is so good. Now, I do worry with Graham Glasgow at center. We saw him play center a few times last season, and the result was mixed at best. At times, very frustrating. I think that job will be Tate Ratledge's eventually. I think we will see Glasgow start there. I think we will see him get the first reps, if you will. And then I think it's going to be Tate Ratledge's job eventually. I just don't see a situation where Ratledge doesn't win that job. He's too skilled. And I'll be watching. This is something we will want to watch in the Hall of Fame game. The Hall of Fame game, presumably, we will get to see quite a bit of Ratledge in that game, presumably. Or we should, I would think. And I'm excited to see what he can do. He's somebody that people have been pumping up pretty good, looked good in practice. He finally ended his holdout and got his money. For a second rounder, I think he could end up being somewhat of a steal in this draft. Outside of that, the O-line, I know what I'm getting from Sewell. I know what I'm getting from the rest of the gang there. I'll be curious to see who steps up. Who fills the gap? I don't know what the loss of Ragnow is going to be right now. I don't know how big it's going to be. He was injured quite a bit last season, and like I said, I didn't like what I saw with Glasgow filling in at center for him.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, Frank Ragnow played not last season, but the season before with a broken throat.
Yeah,
which I didn't even know.
Throat.
Yeah, I didn't even know that your throat could break.
Yeah. And Zeitler was great. Like, I would love to have had Zeitler back this year because it would have answered a lot of questions for us. But he was too good, and he was going to get paid somewhere.
And the Titans did the dumb thing. They gave him an extra year on that. Yep. So let's talk a little bit about other options. We've got the most beloved player possibly that doesn't actually play a lot for the Lions, Dan Skipper, now eligible. Dan
Re-signed Dan
He's
Skipper.
re-signed, so you've got that as a tackle option.
Feel confident, folks. Dan will be back.
No. I mean, that's only when they bring him in as an extra blocker and eligible, but he's awesome.
Extra points.
Then, a couple,
2-point conversions.
Couple guys I do want to bring up are Mahogany, who started last year. He's from Boston College. He's a guard and could man that left guard spot.
I could see him taking that next step this year.
Yeah. The only thing you said that I don't care for is that Glasgow gets reps, let's just say in the Green Bay game at center, and then Ratledge moves in. I would just rip the Band-Aid off and just have Ratledge there the whole season is my preference.
Don't know if he's going to pick it up quick enough. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, right? Like he's got to pick it up. So I'm saying eventually he will. I think we're going to see Glasgow there for the first couple games of the season. And then Ratledge eventually will fall in.
A pick that I am very dubious on is Giovanni Manu, who can play tackle or guard. He's from the University of British Columbia. In stereo, folks. And that was Brad Holmes traded up to get him guy.
Yes.
And again, I need to see something because a listener did text me a question and I will deal with it before we get off. But it's on the topic of Brad Holmes trading up to get something that he really likes. I have never been, and you're going to hear this consistently as you listen to this podcast, I have two steadfast beliefs in all of sports. One, don't trade up, trade down. More picks are better because it's an art, it's not a science. And then two, don't sign guys above the age of 30.
He's an incredible athlete, okay? But he's picked football up in his teens, this guy. So Manu, he's a project. What I don't understand is drafting him as high as they kind of did as a project. I think what did they take him? Was he a fourth round?
Yeah.
Something like that?
But they gave up a lot of draft capital.
Yeah. And I don't know why. I guess, offensive linemen are just projects when you're drafting. I mean, they're young guys.
Yeah.
Literally, you rarely see a rookie offensive lineman succeed at the highest level. That usually takes them a couple seasons. Veterans are where you want to sign veteran offensive linemen. And we'll see.
No.
I mean,
you don't want to sign veteran offensive linemen.
You want veteran offensive linemen. You want guys who understand.
Homegrown, though, because the one position you're going to overpay for.
Though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how it works because the young guys take 3-4 years to become effective as offensive linemen.
Which is why
how long can you wait?
Which is why you build it like the Lions are building it, taking two or three of them almost every draft on both sides of the ball. And then getting them
this 2 or 3 years of kind of where, I mean, Manu wasn't even on he was on the unable to perform list or something last year. They left him off of the actual roster. So he was never going to be coming in. I don't know when this guy's going to be ready to go. I mean, it sounds like he's still learning how to play offensive line. Like he's a credible athlete. He just doesn't have it down yet.
He is a name and number to watch. He's 59, and he is a number to watch this week in the Hall of Fame game, Thursday.
Let's see.
So, all right. So I've got a couple more topics for us. One we can gloss over, and then the other we'll do a little bit of topic on.
Okay.
Apparently, Jamison Williams looks unreal in this training camp.
He's been incredible.
He is going to want to get paid as well. And this is one that Lion fans, no matter how much you love the guy, he switched his number from number 9 to number 1. I love that. I love receivers that are speed guys that can wear number 1 and dominate games. Apparently, he and the new offensive coordinator, Johnny Morton, formerly of the Denver Broncos, he was the passing game coordinator under Sean Payton, which is outstanding. He has great comfort with Dan Campbell from Dan's time in New Orleans under Sean Payton. So there's been a lot said about this and the fact that Ben Johnson was this secret weapon for the Lions, this and that. Ben Johnson never had to deal with any adversity. And John Morton was fired as a New York Jets offensive coordinator. And again, as I said earlier in this pod, the Jets are where coaches go to get fired typically. I think John Morton has been shown some humility. I think he has more tools than he's ever had to work with, whether that was last year in Denver with a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix, whatever he had in New York, but it was lousy. I can guarantee you that. The offense is completely loaded. I mean, you're starting 3 receivers, or 4, I should say, are nothing short of amazing. And the fact that you've got Amon Ra, JMO, and then you've got Tim Patrick as a big-bodied guy that loves to block. I love the mantra of the receiving room that, no rock if you don't block. And then you've got Khalif Raymond, who was hurt last year, but he's great on special teams, and he's a great either third or fourth slot receiver, a speed guy that has really good hands. And then this is one of the listener questions. What about Tesla, the Brad Holmes traded?
Everybody's going to pronounce this last guy's name wrong forever.
I thought it was Tesla.
It's Tislaw.
Oh, Tislaw.
Or Teslaw. But the slaw is Slaw.
Okay.
So we should just call him Slaw. That should be his nickname is Slaw.
I
got that from Razorback Radio, so that's straight from Arkansas.
Nice. So he did play at Arkansas as the reference there.
Well, 2 years.
2 years, his final 2 years. That being said, he's a local kid. I think he was at Grand Valley State before that.
To Hillsdale.
Hillsdale, sorry. And he's a big guy, high school quarterback, option quarterback, super fast, big bodied. I don't see him playing a ton this year outside of special teams. The receiver room is stacked. I think best case scenario for him in his ceiling is to take the Tim Patrick big bodied third receiver when Tim Patrick's time as a Lion is up. If that happens this season, great. I just think the receiver room, as I already alluded to, is pretty jam-packed. If JMO leaves in free agency at some point, just because receivers are really expensive, and as when we talked about the defense, there's a lot of guys that need to be paid. Branch, Hutchinson, Campbell, Arnold. I just don't know if JMO is going to be part of the equation, especially if Tesla is somebody they believe in.
So let me give you a little on Isaac Tesla, if you don't mind. This guy is he went to Hillsdale, as we said. He's from Hudsonville, Michigan. He went to Unity Christian in Hudsonville, Michigan. He won a state championship. He did. As we stated with Manu, he was one of these trade-up deals for Holmes. So they traded up to get him in the 3rd round this year with the 70th pick. This is a kid that had one offer out of college or out of high school, and it was to go to Hinsdale.
Which is pretty much
Hillsdale, not Hinsdale. Hillsdale.
That's a pay-to-play walk-on.
Yes, he went to Hillsdale College. So he is Division II. Okay, that was his only option.
Yeah.
He then, after 2 years there, goes to Arkansas and plays in the SEC. He has some crazy stat. He didn't drop any balls, something nuts like that. And on top of that, he runs a 4.440, and he's 6'4", 214 on the weight. So he's not a small guy. I had kind of assumed he was a small guy. I'm like, how does a guy that big get through high school, everything else, and get looked over like that with that type of ability?
I think because he played quarterback and was probably the best athlete.
Probably was one of those deals.
And so they used him where they needed to win the state championship, and probably didn't ever develop him and as a late bloomer. And he's probably worth a flyer. I just wish Brad Holmes didn't feel the need to trade picks to get up to trade these guys.
Here we go again with the trading up thing. So, hey, you know what? Maybe he's the next, I don't know, great wide receiver for the Detroit Lions. Maybe
here's hoping. So speaking of trade ups, our last listener question that they wanted addressed was Hendon Hooker ? Which Hendon Hooker will be either the backup quarterback or the third string quarterback. He was a developmental project coming out of the University of Tennessee. He was hurt very, very severely his senior year at Tennessee. Yeah, he had great tape, but he had a major injury, so he missed an entire season. And if Jared Goff gets hurt, this team's chances of winning double-digit games is, I think, rather limited, despite how talented the roster is. And I'm not sure that either Allen or Hooker would be all that serviceable. I hope I'm wrong on that.
We have 3 rostered quarterbacks right now.
Yeah, and
Goff, Hooker, and Kyle Allen.
I mean, the backstory on Hooker is that Brad Holmes and his dad played together and are really close. I almost viewed this as like a favor to his pops. That being said, Brad Holmes did trade picks to move up to draft Hooker, so I think it's a little more than that. Needless to say, the clock is ticking on Hendon Hooker. He wasn't a first-round pick. He was a third-round pick. And just NFL Players Association 101 for y'all is that unless you're a first-round pick, you get 5 seasons of team control before you extend. Any other round, meaning non-first-round picks, you only have 4 years of team control. So we're entering that 4th year, and he has yet to see meaningful snaps on the field. My biggest talking point on this is that he had the ability to come in last year in the playoff game when Jared Goff was hurt, and Teddy Bridgewater, who had been in the Lions facility, the Meyer, Lions Performance Center, Detroit Lions Training Center, for a hot minute. I know Bridgewater had been there before, but he finished coaching high school football in Florida and came back, and Bridgewater was the one that came in to take a couple snaps, not Hooker. And that tells me more about where Hooker's career progress is than anything else. And so
you got Hooker and you got Kyle Allen. So Kyle Allen hasn't started a football game since 2022. I mean,
I got the wrong Allen. I thought it was Braylon Allen. So there you go. So
Kyle Allen. Yeah.
That tells you how much
you don't even remember.
Tells you how much I think of this Allen.
I think quarterback is going to be as scary for us this year as it has been for the last couple of years. If something happens to Jared Goff, what happens?
It's very scary. I guess in conclusion, I just wanted to wrap up a couple other things. There was another 6th-round pick, Miles Frazier from Louisiana State University, that was supposed to be a tackle. He got seriously injured and is going to be out for an extended period of time. The other thing I wanted to talk about was, and we'll do this post Hall of Fame game, is why 2nd-round picks like our guy Tate Ratledge took so long to sign. It's something that I'll just do it now. The Cleveland Browns decided to be smarter than everybody else in the league and offer guaranteed money, which has never been done to 2nd-round picks in the history of the NFL. After they did it for a linebacker, Carson Schlesinger or something like that from UCLA, a guy that I don't see being a meaningful player for the Browns. Same song, same dance. The Houston Texans signed their 2nd-round pick. And so there was a huge impasse between most franchises in their 2nd-round picks.
Interesting to see how that stuff snowballs.
Yeah. And so it was never really Ratledge, and it was never really the Lions. The contract that he signed apparently was already discussed. The Lions just had to offer him more guaranteed money than probably they wanted to. That being said, the Lions are really bullish on him, and he's bullish on being a Lion, and he reeks grit and all that Dan Campbell, oxymorons. So that about wraps it up, Lions fans, for our first edition of the Litterbox Detroit Lions. Look forward to connecting with you all post Hall of Fame game.
I think we're going to see a bunch of guys we're not going to see in the regular season. I'm excited to see a couple guys for a little bit, and then I'm probably not going to watch the last half of the game.
Probably try to fast forward through the advertisements. All right, we'll talk to you all soon, Lions fans.